Your calendar is the scorecard of your priorities. Your calendar is the scorecard of your priorities. Rohit Agarwal. The growth, the changes, the milestones, all the things you want to reach. Start with what is and what is not on your calendar. What do you need to see more on your calendar? What do you need to see less on your calendar? I'll be honest with you. You can probably eliminate, delegate, or outsource at least 1/4 of the things you're wrestling with right now. But I don't want to spend the money, Troy. Make the investment. Think of the additional money that's being lost or the opportunities that could be gained with that off your calendar. No one can do it like me, Troy. I need to be in control. And let me tell you something. Every single leader or business or brand you look up to, that you idolize, that you want to emulate, that you're chasing after, are not doing that. You have small because you think small. But Troy, I can save money by DIYing everything. Doing it yourself is a guarantee to burn out, crash out, and fall out. Bring in experts who can eliminate the friction and move you forward faster, stronger. I've said this a million times, and I'll say it a million more. Time is the most expensive commodity that you have on this planet. It is the most priceless commodity. Please do not waste your time on frivolous things. Maximize your time to maximize your energy, to maximize your output, to maximize your results in a more sustainable, scalable, and profitable way. So, if you looked at your calendar right now, what would your scorecard be? Would it be an A, a B minus, a C plus? Would it be an F? This is why we need to go to the store and make sure we have all the right things. And by store, I mean, do you have the right strategy? Do you have traction? Do you have the right operations? Are you achieving the right results? And are you efficient? So strategy, traction, operations, results, and efficiency. The right combo of these things will help you do well on your scorecard for your calendar and your business. It takes a lot to grow your business. A lot of audience attracting, a lot of lead scoring, a lot of channel managing, plus a lot of long days, a lot of late nights, and a lot of weekends. And a lot of wishing there was an easier way to do all of this. But with Breeze, HubSpot's new collection of AI tools, it's easier than ever for marketers to attract audiences, increase leads, and score customers fast, which only means one thing. Pretty soon, your company will have a lot to celebrate. Visit HubSpot.com/marketers to learn more today. You know exactly what you need, and you know what you lack. Stop wasting time needing to be convinced and spend more time finding the right people, processes, and procedures to help you elevate this year. And if you need real support, that you're ready to make an investment into launch, elevate, or scale, I would absolutely love the opportunity to help you visualize what that could look like. We can break it all down, itemize it, build it, market it, grow it, and scale it. Go to findtroy.com. You can book a paid session with me, and we can discuss what that may look like for me to help you and your business grow. Because if I'm willing to bet, your calendar could be optimized because I want everyone to win in 2025.
What's up, digital world? You're listening to the I Digress audio experience with Troy Sandidge. Social media, marketing, storytelling, business, culture, and more. Coming to you in 3, 2, 1.
Not to date this episode, but I feel it's very valid to express and say my heart is heavy, my mind is racing, and my soul and spirit and energy is reeling things in. We're in a time in business, we're in a time with life and people and humanity. Not even 14 days into 2025 at the time of this recording of this episode, and things are all over the place. You have wildfires on the West Coast, polar vortex approaching on the East Coast. People and marketplaces, depending on the industry and sector, are desperately looking for work. Other sectors, clients are dropping like flies. There's a drought in moving things forward. TikTok is going to go away. Where do we go with these platforms? I did not build an email list. I did not have myself built on other platforms. What do we do? And I find in the midst of a ton of chaos, we can somehow find a glimmer of hope and clarity. What can we observe? What can we learn? Thoughts, prayers, and support to anyone and everyone impacted by the wildfires and impacted by layoffs and unemployment and different things like that. On this episode, we will have links for anyone listening to go to the show notes and click to support in any way that they can to help those in need, desperately in need. I reflect back on 2020, and there's a ton of parallels you can correlate between what transpired in 2020 and thereafter to what is happening in 2025. And again, I will keep it very heavily on the business sense to lean into that a little bit more. For starters, what happens is there is a catalyst that forces us to have to acknowledge something, change something, and bring forth something new. Marketing as we knew it in 2020 was literally destroyed and rebuilt in a new society with new demands, with new budgets, and new needs and less wants of other things in flow, and we had to adjust. One of the biggest words in that time during that period was pivot, which still is a word that's being heavily used now, more so than it ever was in previous instances, because it made sense. We have to pivot. We're not doing a 360, we're doing a 180, we're doing a 125, we're doing a 90-degree. We have to figure out how we're going to pivot and move these things forward. But with that, when it came to marketing, one of the biggest things that came out of that with the emergency of TikTok in its iteration that it was then, as now it's coming to a close now, which if you tie the parallels back, you had Vine, you had Meerkat, is regardless of the platform, if you know how to create, to tell a story that connects, builds community, makes you unique, and validates your opinion, your thought leadership, your value, it doesn't matter what platform you're on. It doesn't matter how much the algorithm changes. You have it. So, do you have it? It being a formula, it being an infrastructure, it being a proven, validated process that can be repeated over and over again to achieve scalable results. There's less confusion, there's less doubt. Do it X amount of times over Y amount of period, you will get Z amount results. Proven across platforms because you know how to speak to the human psyche. You get human psychology, you get consumer behavior, you get the totality of how to present and position with messaging, language, visualization, content to quantify the efforts to drive a certain outcome, a certain result, build that trust currency, establish that people currency to drive real currency. Ooh, are we here? Are you listening to me right now in this moment? That's what we need to figure out. Because if we're playing this game of marketing and growth and scalability and sustainability and business in general, if I understand the proper strategy and understand my audience and how to communicate to the audience and validate my value that drives an impulse, advocacy, and outcomes that align with my margins for success, and I figure out that formula, I don't care if the next platform is called Dinosaur Alpha. We're going to apply the same thing, figure out the nuances, but our formula doesn't change. People think sometimes pivoting means abandoning everything you've done to do something new from scratch. Well, I'm telling you right now, that is far from the truth. Pivoting is marginally adjusting as much as possible while retaining what is working, what can work, or what will work to move things forward. If I'm changing direction, I don't get a whole new car. I literally change the direction of the vehicle to go to a different street. I don't switch cars. Same thing in business. If I'm pivoting, I don't abandon everything that the business was because it went through a stagnation. I adjust and identify what can be salvageable, what can be expanded to be improved on, what currently works that will probably work in this next transition, and lean in on that than trying to start something from absolute scratch. Just because you're not getting the numbers that you wanted from your content marketing doesn't mean it's not still salvageable. It may be a slight pivot of just our audience was wrong. We should change our audience to something else. Simple. So take what we did, select all the different pieces that emulate a certain audience group, change it to a different audience group, rinse and repeat with maybe a new tone, new visuals, and see what happens. Rinse and repeat. Your pivot team doesn't have to be so pivotal. And what I mean by that is that we put so much energy and effort as if I don't make this right turn right now, I'm never going to get to my destination. But what happens in a GPS? It's telling you what we designed from the roadmap from the initial part of where you are. Let's say you missed your turn, you missed your pivot. Literally, poof, rerouting. Here's the next opportunity. Make the turn there. And depending on certain things, you actually may get to your destination faster. I think that's the parallel that what we can learn, what we have observed from 2020 as we're entering into 2025 with a lot of unknowns, but a lot of the same nuances that people are desperate for things and we're emotionally supercharged. This ain't the right time to post heavily sales, 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 sales when we have everyone's top of mind right now is wildfires and the impact and the narrative and who's going to help, who's going to make a difference. Those are real lives, real businesses. Hollywood may not be the same when this is all done, said and done. Hollywood may be an aftermath of what it once was for a good period of time. That impacts a whole ecosystem. That impacts more than you think. Oh, you're a SaaS B2B tech brand. You're not impacted by Hollywood. Yes, you are. We're all interconnected. There's a client that serves that groups. And if they're not getting money from that groups, they're going to then pivot away from things that are pulling too much money in other industries and areas that aren't making sense. And yours can be one of them. Please do not be so naive to think we're not all interconnected because we are, which causes us to pause, which causes us to consider where do we go from here? How do we operate? How do we move things forward in a way that makes sense now when it comes to our marketing, our communications, our media, our brand positioning, our emailing, where we attend events, how we articulate during tough times as these. And I don't care whether you have a crisis communication plan in place or you don't, or you're very in tune with your DEIBA programs or you're not as efficient in that yet. When things like these things happen in our society, that impacts the people, the buyers, the decision makers, when it slows them down. Things are already slow in the first quarter of the year. That's always a given coming off the holiday season. Emails get lost in the noise. No one wants to deal with it for the first month of the year. You have a transitioning of the guard, new hires, layoffs, new people in position, people who are decision makers, who are slow to speak, slow to move, others who are ready to go, prove themselves, ready to make big moves. How do we find the right people? How do we be patient with the people who aren't ready yet? How do we identify this is in the right time and stop the pursuit? How do we position ourselves as an organization and a brand that's cognizant, that's aware of what's happening, still functioning as a business, but not being overly salesy, not being tone deaf to the times and the reality of what's happening? And the brands that do get that, The brands who do understand that, the brands who navigate through those times elegantly are the ones that will survive, who will build trust and thrive. Ask yourself, are you one of those brands? Can you be one of those brands? Have you looked back at your content the last 90 days? Have you looked back at your email sequencing, your media, your comms? Has it seemed a little tone deaf? Has it seemed a little too sales heavy? Has it seemed a little too desperate, too intensive? Maybe we need to recalibrate how we present ourselves, how we move our marketing initiatives forward in this coming year. Content is profit. Hosted by Luis and Fonzie Cameo, is brought to you by the HubSpot Podcast Network, the audio destination for business professionals. Discover the secrets and strategies on how your business can achieve the frictionless sale. They talk about frameworks, they talk about strategies, they talk about tactics, and they bring on special guests to bring you all the information you need in order to turn your content into profit. Ooh, that sounds like an ideal podcast for my audiences to listen to today. You'll hear from top entrepreneurs, creators, and anything and everything you need to know about content. All this while having a great time, being entertained, educated, and empowered. From Red Bull to Chet Holmes International to Orange Theory Fitness to Jacksonville Wealth Builders and so much more, you will finally discover how to bridge the gap between your content and your revenue. Listen to Content is Profit wherever you get your podcasts. And which brings me back to what I talked about at the beginning of this episode, being your calendar. What do you need to see more on your calendar? And what do you need to see less on your calendar? For me, I want to see more client strategy sessions on my calendar. Hey, I want to help as many brands and startups as I can. And I have certain tiers and certain packages to do that, to really move things forward. But I also want to give back too. I also want to be on 2 to 3 more advisory boards this year. I want to help nonprofits and groups this year. I want to use my talents, as my bishop would say, my time, talents, and treasures, to help impact communities that desperately need what I offer to make them better, to impact the communities at large. I don't just want to make money to sustain myself and my family. I also want to use my time, talent, and treasures to make a genuine impact that proceeds the legacy that goes beyond me. And both of those things are true and can be true at the same time and run very parallel and deep within my heart and who I am as a person, who I am as a business, who I am as an entity, and as a strategist. And I think people want to work with people like that, people like me, but they may not know who I am. They haven't listened this far in an episode yet. So if you are listening, please feel free to tag them, suggest them. I do have some things I'm working on to create opportunities and impact those who maybe can't financially afford me. And also, for those who can't afford me, I'm locked in and ready to go. But in saying that, even I have to be very careful and constant about how I position in times like these. 2020 taught me so much about who I was, about my resiliency, but also how much, even in some dark times where I desperately need certain things, I was genuinely still a giver. Now it's easy to give when you have an abundance. It's harder to give when you're in a deficit. And I've had plenty of times, even now, in a somewhat of a deficit state where I still give my time, my talent, my treasure. And when people know that about myself on the business side of things, it makes people want to be an advocate for you. It makes people want to work with you. It makes people know that regardless of the times, the challenges, what's happening externally in the world, you're going to be consistent in who you are, who you help, and how you give. How you show up consistently says more about you than the most sexiest new marketing campaign or AI model that you can create. If it's not clothed in humanity and connectivity, it won't stand out in times of turmoil and chaos. So For this particular episode, I challenge you to look at how you position your brand and your marketing and add more humanity to it. Let's try not to be as tone deaf. Let's not try to pivot so heavily. What can be salvageable? It's not black and white, it's layers of gray. And we're trying to find the right combo of gray ranges that makes sense depending on what we're dealing with at any point in time throughout this year. And this is where strategy does come in. But it doesn't stop at strategy. What's your trajectory? How is your operations doing on that trajectory with the guided strategy? Are you adjusting that? Are you getting results from it? And are you efficient in it? And all that runs in parallel. You can have one, but you need to have all five things to move these things forward. Just how my previous episode with the six and the four and the three: clover, cash, and eat. And now you got store. So we're going to eat at the store with cash to get more lucky clovers. Like, I don't know. Y'all stay with me here. It's going to be a weird series of things, but they're all things that I hope it will be memorable, which means it'll be easier to apply and assess and amplify within your organization, within your marketing and business endeavors. But we have to make sure humanity is part of the equation. We have to make sure that we are moving things in the right direction and that things make sense. It's imperative that you understand everyone cares about more than anything else their time. And if your business can help me save time, to put my time spent with loved ones, because the shock of these things happening in your state, in your city, in this country, and around the world makes you united in one thing. It's that we are limited by time. Stuff can be replaced, not people. But even in that, the stuff holds these memories. The stuff have additional value and meaning. I built the business to provide for the family, to create the home, to create the space that we can live and be happy. How can your software, how can your services, how can your technology, how can whatever it is that you're building or will be building change the fabrics of how I live my life and spending the time where I want to spend it most? It's the difference between saying, hey, we have a $500,000 product to an enterprise brand that we can help them save X amount of dollars, and saying, we have a product that can save your sales teams at least on average 30 hours a month and help you generate more leads that drives more outcomes and more results because they have a higher conversion rate because of how we've itemized this aligns less of the basic nuanced data that you can pull from LinkedIn, but it couples with that the dark social data, if you will, of how we correlate the psyche of these people to see what they really want to help benefit them better, which in turn helps you benefit yourself better, which helps you close more deals, makes you more profitable with less expenditures, burn less time, which you can spend more time elsewhere. At the end of the day, everything is an exchange of time currency. You choosing to listen to this episode of I Digress is an exchange of time currency. And again, I don't take it for granted. Just as, is it worth my time to create more episodes that is for free for people who are listening, who every time I ask to do something for me, they don't do it, but they still listening? No shade, no shade. Just saying, just saying. Little joke in there, but I digress. Is it more valuable? And to me, it has proven time and time again the consistency in creating of this show, of these episodes, to the right people, who, if they never interact with me directly, builds the human equity that could benefit my business and me personally in the long term, but ultimately with the intent and goal to empower people to get what they need. If all they needed was to listen to an episode, they got what they needed, and they don't have to pay for my services, cool. You spent 30 minutes of your time listening, and now you spend the next month running and gunning and doing what you need to do to impact your business. It was a well investment. Not every investment needs to make me money directly, but all investments need to make impact. Woo, come on with it. Come on with it. And that's what I'm holding on to. And I think when you peel back the layers of your onion that is your business, and hopefully it doesn't make you cry and get teary-eyed, to the reality value of what you're trying to do and build, it should excite you. Where's the humanity in everything that we do? And if it's missing, we need to put it in there and supercharge it from every aspect of our business. When we lead with the humanity as our guiding light, it makes it very easy to pivot because we're positioning toward the light, toward our ICP and what they actually want. We're not estimating, we're not guessing per our own selfish wants and desires. It's what they actually need. And based on that need, what can we do to provide? What solutions can we give them? And ultimately, if it saves them time and brings them value, those are the two things that if we lean into it, it's going to position us best for success. And that's across industry, across board, in every area of your business and every entity of your business. To be a better marketer, you need to be a better human. And better human is better understanding the human psychology. And it's not that deep. What do they want? What do they not want? And do we have anything in our arsenal of solutions, of services that can help them get there? And if so, double down on it and lean into that. Repackage and remarket things based off the demand and the needs that needs to be met, not on the selfish ideas of creativity that came up to you one night and you're trying to push it and it doesn't make sense to anybody else. So hopefully this episode made sense. Hopefully it stuck with you. Food for thought. As always, I appreciate you spending your time currency listening to this episode, listening to Out of Yours podcast. If you would like to leave a review, please leave a review on Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to your podcasts. I greatly appreciate it. Tag me at Find Troy on all social channels. Let me know what you think, what your thoughts are. I'm doing heavy things on LinkedIn soon. I'm open to new sponsorships. I'm open to new masterclass episode inquiries, but please come at me the right way. Have a vision. You have to prove to me you've listened to an episode, have a vision, and let's see if we can make something happen. My goal is to impact more people, more businesses in 2025, and you all can help me do that. Thank you so much for listening. I appreciate you. Again, love, support, light, abundance, and prayers to those dealing with wildfires. Again, the links to help support them are in the show notes. If there's businesses, nonprofits, or organizations looking for a public speaker or looking for ways that may make sense for me to help you, impact you in financial or non-financial ways, if it makes sense, I'd be more than happy to have those conversations. You can email me at troy@findtroy.com. And again, it all starts now. Let's take accountability. Let's look at our calendars. What do we want to see more of? What do we want to see less of? And double it down on it. Be strategic. Make sure your trajectory's in place. Make sure your operations are good. Make sure you're getting the right results. And make sure you're efficient. Thank you for listening. And as always, I'll check you next time. T out.
And that's a wrap. We hope you enjoyed this episode of I Digress. What was your takeaway? Care to share your thoughts and tag Troy on social media? You can find him on all platforms at Find Troy. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a review or comment for this episode from wherever you're listening. Looking for a marketing strategist to build the structure, strategies, and systems you need to get the success you want and the ROI you desire in your business? Book a discovery call to talk with Troy at findtroy.com. And as Troy's philosophy goes, imagination is the engine, content is the fuel, social media is the highway, marketing is the roadmap, sales is the destination, culture is the GPS. Thanks for listening.